My name's Michael Emmick. I'm a funeral director, second generation funeral director, and we're at Bleitz Funeral Home in the Queen Anne neighborhood, right next to the Fremont Bridge. We were involved in supplying a couple of the photographs and stories for the landmark nomination back in 2017. My father worked at Bleitz, my wife worked at Bleitz, and my great-grandfather worked at Bleitz. So we have a long family connection with the Bleitz building and the Bleitz family, and we've continued our own tradition as funeral directors with our own funeral home business.
Well, in '75 I was a student, so my wife's to-be grandfather was the gardeners here. And so he went to Harriet. Mrs. Blight said, my granddaughter's boyfriend needs a job, so they put me on the summer '75 as kind of just an attendant. So I'd help Mrs. Blight out, I'd help the guys out, and I knew that's what I could do. So I went back to WSU, finished my bachelor's degree. Then in the early '80s, '81, '82, there were no teaching jobs in Seattle at that time. So Blight called me and said, come on back, we'll get you your apprenticeship. So I did my 2-year apprenticeship, which was required by the state laws. And then I went to Mount Hood for 9 months to get my AA degree so I could be a licensed funeral director and embalmer. When I came out, Bleitz didn't have the People's Memorial contract done. They had lost it to another funeral home. So I had to wait until they got that back. When I came back to Bleitz eventually and served many, many years, many, many families. We'd live here because I lived in West Seattle. We'd have to be called back at night time or the graveyard shift to come back and transport bodies back into the funeral home, and we'd meet with the families the next day to process that.
I worked here from 2015 to 2017 approximately, and I was basically the last person working here when they closed, so I saw all the files move, and I took care of the last families here. I may have even had the last service in the chapel, so.
It's very significant. It served thousands and thousands of bereaved folks throughout its 101 years. Bleitz was a leader in low cost and affordable funerals. He was a leader. Jacob Bleitz was a very early advocate for cremation and for people not spending too much money on a loved one's funeral service, and that's why it's so significant, and it's great that the building's still here. And this building is significant, and I love it, and what happened here, it helped a lot of people. There were a lot of great employees, and the Bleitz family helped a lot of people. Their mission is very similar to what our mission as a family is. The building was extremely beautiful. It still is. There was beautiful stained glass doors, and the architecture there was beautiful. Just the whole place was just beautiful, and it's just really special.
Well, it was family owned when I worked here the first time, and it was just the loyalty developed, the philosophy developed, and like I said, us guys, it wasn't a 9-to-5 job. We'd be coming on our Sundays off for 10, 12 hours of work, or swing shift, or night shift, and we'd have to be on call. There was 9 of us licensed embalmers who were in the Teamsters in those days. Were caring for hundreds of thousands of families in the Puget Sound region. So it wasn't, again, just 9 to 5. We were here evenings, nights, holidays that were supposed to be off, but we were serving our families in the Puget Sound region.
Jacob Bleitz was a leader. He promoted cremation when it wasn't popular at the time, and he had his own evaporator type of cremation, which never caught on.
We had the old chapel. We used it a lot on Saturdays. Families wanted a memorial service, and we do 11, 1, and 3. We had the old Moeller pipe organ that was still used, and hired organists to come and play it then in those days in the 70s and 80s. We're still hiring musicians and ministers to lead a memorial gathering. And in those days, we could have the cremation done in a timely manner, 3 to 5 days. I would usually give my families the urn and their certifieds that Saturday afternoon with the service, so we were able to serve families in a really good, convenient, practical method.
I really appreciate the history that the Bleitz family has, and that they built it from the ground up, and what it meant to them. And the history there was very palpable. You could feel that it was, well loved and well used for many years, and I found, a lot of documents upstairs and sort of the archives, I guess, so to speak. Like different letters from Mr. Bleitz and what his mission was, and how he didn't appreciate how other funeral homes were overcharging families and taking advantage of them during their grief. And I really respected the fact that he simply wanted to take care of people in the way in which they wanted to be taken care of at that time, and nothing in excess of that. So it really changed my perspective of the funeral industry, my time working there, in the sense that it gave me hope that there were people that were doing this for the right reasons, that were in positions of power and ownership in the funeral home era. So it was refreshing.
We always joked, and Gary, the manager for 40 years here, literally Jim would give the shirt off his back. We didn't high pressure families, we didn't make them purchase. We didn't even take so many of our PMA families into the casket display room because they weren't going to buy a casket, so it was usually a form of cremation. And it was just honest, loyal, quality service. We didn't have to be a used car salesman with our families, so it was really enjoyable. Just, here's the prices. We had 3 prices in those days. It was all contracted, and that was our pre-need. The people who believed in the People's Memorial and Blight's philosophy joined this society for $25, and then 10, 20 years later they would pass and knew to go through Bleitz Funeral Home with that People's Memorial membership.
We started our own funeral home to be more affordable, just like the original mission of Jacob Bleitz, the founder of Bleitz Funeral Home, so people don't have to spend a great deal of money and still have a nice service or remember their loved one. And I just have always appreciated the mission of the Bleitz family, and I saw my dad, how he cared for people and offered affordable services, so we started our own to be like Bleitz. Even though we don't have the building, we still carry on the same mantra and traditions while still embracing the new traditions of funeral service and natural burial and aqua cremations. He was an innovator, and I think that we are too, and continuing on the tradition like the Blights did.